In light of the recent changes to how my channel is going to be run, which I'm very happy to hear the positive reactions to the changes I'm making got, and I really appreciate the support from you guys, especially in regards to the idea of a Patreon, since I know that can be quite controversial. So let's kick off these new changes this week with the 14th video of those editorial vlog things that I do once in a rare moment, but finally giving it an official name of the Retro Report and starting its new bi-weekly schedule. Have you noticed that we seem to be in this age of spiritual successors? It's kinda nice to see that the developers who people like me grew up with playing their games have broken away from the chains of the big publishers, and started their own studios to make their own games that they want to make instead of being forced to make what the publishers want because it quote-unquote makes money. Which is why gaming has gotten so bland lately. All these AAA games, which is a term that needs to go away, that come out have pretty much been the same, copy and paste jobs. If we're not getting the bare minimum yearly sequels that are carved like a Thanksgiving turkey for DLC, we're getting microtransaction laden mobile games that don't let you do a damn thing until you spent your life savings and given them your firstborn for them. When Sega got the rights to Guilty Gear from the Sega Sammy merging, Arc System Works made BlazBlue to succeed it. Keiji Inafune left Capcom to form Concept, and he's making Mighty No. 9 to succeed Mega Man since Capcom won't do anything with the property. Koji Igarashi has his own studio and is making Bloodstain to succeed Castlevania since Konami won't do anything with the property, and Playtonic, a group of former Rare developers, is making Yooka-Laylee to succeed BanjoKazooie. Why? You guessed it, because Microsoft isn't doing anything with the BanjoKazooie property either. All these big name publishers have the keys to the kingdom and they're not opening it. They're letting these game properties just rot in whatever basement they have them locked in. The guy who succeeded Don Matrick as the head of Xbox said that he'd like to have more BanjoKazooie games, and nothing was announced E3 of this year. He didn't have to show anything. He could have just said, hey, we're making a new BanjoKazooie game that's not like Nuts and Bolts and is more like the old games. They could have said that, but they didn't. And then they started making a new Conquer game in Project Spark, which is episodic. But Project Spark is a microtransaction whorehouse of a machine. When we've asked for more Mega Man games, more Castlevania, and more platform adventure games, we get told that they do not make any money and that no one wants them anymore. And all that people want are these multiplayer action games like Call of Duty where there's little difference in each sequel. Even Batman Arkham Origins, from what I've heard because I've yet to play it, is pretty much the same as Arkham City. A game of been there, done that, but whenever I get Origins and if I decide to review it, we'll see how it is. Square Enix was surprised by the sales of Bravely Default, thinking that people didn't like JRPGs anymore. You know what that tells me? That the game industry is trying to tell us what we like because it's easier to make and safe because it's profitable. These people have their heads so far up their asses that their body's a hat. Here's the thing though, the games that make the mega bucks, the profits are just going to making the sequel. Now I don't exactly have proof of that claim, but when you think about it, it makes sense. After the publishers make its money back from the development cost, clears its overhead, and pays the salaries of everyone, they get right on making the sequel, leaving no money for anything else. When they do decide to make a game that we would truly want, you know what happens? No money goes into marketing it, going so far as even forgetting about it. Konami released the Metal Gear Solid HD collection at the same time as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and didn't really tell anyone about it. It was a quiet release and they made it very difficult to find. Only a few stores got it. Blades of Time, another Konami game, had its launch date released a week before launch and the game wasn't available until a week after that date. Then, 3 days later, Konami announced it was available for sale. And the game's producer couldn't even find his own game in the store. Little King's Story got launch announcements days after it was released. You can see what I'm getting at here. Unless it's a big name that everyone knows, or it's being spammed all over TV, it's not getting any attention from its own publishers. If Capcom decided to make a brand new Mega Man game, do you think we'd hear about it? Probably not. I didn't hear about Guilty Gear Xrd until after it was released and I saw the box in the store. Any game that I would be interested in doesn't get advertised. I like JRPGs, but I never find out about them until after I see them in the store. The last JRPG I can remember seeing quite a lot of attention was Ni no Kuni, and that's because Studio Ghibli was behind it. And that's why we're seeing all these spiritual successors. Indie developers are raking in money that's missing the pockets of the bigwigs, because the bigwigs have this go big or go home mindset, where they would rather not make any money if they can't have all the money. And while people have pointed out that these indie devs are using Kickstarter to show investors that there's interest in these games, they're still doing it at relatively small budgets when compared to the big name titles, and the gaming media gives them all the attention they could ever want. Because they're not spending most of their money on expensive TV ads, not just producing the ads, but paying for them to be on TV. You think Super Bowl ads are cheap? Of course not! But there's been those publishers that have paid for Super Bowl ads. And with these indies making the games that us gamers loved growing up with, the younger crowd gets to experience their own new versions of it, and it will refresh this stale gaming industry. Because these indies with their spiritual successors are doing what they did in the late 80s and early 90s, making games with smaller teams with smaller budgets that have talent behind them, and letting the media and word of mouth give the game all the free promotion they could ever wish for. The gaming industry is a game console or PC that's frozen, and indie developers are the reset switch that us gamers are pressing and need to press if we want to see some games that aren't copy and paste jobs.